Hey, what's going on internet? This is Josh Noel from SonduckFilm. Welcome to our channel. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So this tutorial is going to be really easy to follow along with because I designed it to be for more of a beginner based tutorial, but we're going to talk about 5 easy and pretty much the techniques you need to know when it comes to creating motion graphic logo intros inside of After Effects. Very simple techniques, but they are amazing and absolutely essential. So without wasting more time, let's jump into our tutorial and let's get started. Alright, so here we are inside of After Effects, and here's the animation we'll be creating inside of this video. And we're setting this video up to be very generic, so you're not going to need to do any specific animations with your own logo. You're going to be able to like swap in any logo if you want. So when you have your logo in here and selected, go to Layer, Pre-Compose, and we'll call this Logo Placeholder, and move all attributes into New Composition and click OK. So this way you can change it out later if you're working with multiple logos or you have yourself like a little template. So for our first technique, we're going to set up the logo animation, specifically the logo animating along with this box. And let's go ahead and move over to our composition. So the first thing we'll do is come here to the rectangle tool and we'll select this. We'll click on the word fill, make sure it's set to none and click OK. Click on the word stroke, set the solid color and click OK. And we can change this color to white or whatever color you want, and we can increase the stroke width by a little bit. And all we have to do here is click and hold down shift on our keyboard and we'll draw out a perfect box like this. Then we come over here to the line tab and just make sure this is centered up, right, with those horizontal and vertical buttons. And then we'll control double click the pan behind tool here at the top. This way the anchor point will be in the middle of our box. And we of course can always increase the stroke width as we see fit. Alright, so from here what we're going to do is open rectangle 1 and go in the stroke 1. And we'll add a keyframe for stroke width and we'll move this forward in time, maybe to a half a second. Then set the stroke width down to 0. Make both those keyframes easy ease keyframes by hitting F9 on your keyboard. And then this will animate in. And then we'll hit S on our keyboard for scale, and we'll also hit Shift R to bring up the rotation. We'll add a keyframe for both of these. And then we'll move these keyframes forward in time, mostly to the other keyframes. And then what we can do is kind of scale this down by a little bit and set the rotation to 90 degrees. This way it'll kind of come in like this. And then we'll make sure all the keyframes are easy ease keyframes by hitting F9 on our keyboard. So now we'll have this animation, and that's cool. And then we can hit S and Shift R on our logo placeholder, add a keyframe for both of these, and we'll move it forward in time, and then we can set the scale down to 0, and we'll rotate this to like -45 degrees, and then this can just kind of rotate in like that. And then of course make sure all these keyframes are easy ease keyframes by hitting F9 on our keyboard. Alright, so here's what we have with our logo animation. I went ahead and made everything a little bit smaller, but this is the general idea of how to just kind of get a little bit of logo animation in here for our first technique. And then you can make sure to turn on motion blur, make sure that animation will be there. So for our second technique, I want to talk about the title animation, and it's really easy to do this sort of thing. So we have our 2 title layers in here for our logo, and if you're going to type the logo name out inside of After Effects, make sure you use the same exact typeface and the styling so you get exactly how it's supposed to be. Very important that you do that. But the reason why we have this typed out is because I want to be able to animate this with extra control, and this is a great technique to do so. Make sure to find out the same exact typeface that you're using, and you can type it outside of here After Effects. But once you have this typed up in its own title layer like I have here, what we can do is go to our main layer first, and we can come here to animate, and we'll add a position. And then all we'll do here is take the Y position and move it up, you know, like that. That's fine. Then we'll come here to add, we'll go to property and we'll add an opacity, and we'll set this down to 0%. Then we'll open up range selector 1, and right at this time, I guess the title can animate on. We'll add a keyframe for start, and we'll move this keyframe or move forward in time, and we'll set this up to 100%. So then it'll just come straight down like that, and we can, you know, expand the keyframes, make them both easy ease keyframes by hitting F9 on our keyboard. Nice. And then we can always just copy the animator 1, go to our, if you have like a subtitle or something, a website, you can, you know, play around with the different animation properties. Of course, you don't have to use the ones that I use, but that's the general gist of how to use this. If you don't want this to animate down by like characters, you come to the advanced tab and set this to based on words. And if you have multiple words, you know, you can do it separately if you want that. But we can copy the animator 1 and paste it to our second layer, and that'll take the keyframes as well. We might need to just readjust the keyframes. Nice. That's great. So pretty easy way to animate some titles for your logo inside of After Effects. And if you want to just add a little bit more of a style to this, we can grab the pen tool here, lower the stroke width to like maybe 3. We'll come here and we can do like a straight line across like that. Maybe actually set the stroke width to 2. We can open up the shape layer, go to add, and we can add a trim paths. All right, and from here we can open the trim paths one, and we can set the start down to 0%. And after it's been animated on, I like to animate this on, so we'll add a keyframe for end. We'll move forward to like, a second or so and set this up to 100%. Of course, make the keyframes easy ease keyframes. So now we have our logo animated on along with our title and a little cool graphic. All right, so for our third technique, we're going to talk about creating just a little bit of extra shape animations that you see coming out of here, and I'll talk about the other ones here in a second. But let's talk about creating these circle, accent graphics. Really easy to do this. So all we're going to do is come here to the ellipse tool here, just select and grab the ellipse tool, turn off stroke, set that to none, go to fill and set this a solid color and click OK. I'm going to have this set at white, click OK. Then we'll come here, hold down shift on our keyboard to draw out a perfect circle like that. Perfect. Then make sure you control double click the pan behind tool and make sure the anchor point is in the center of the layer. Awesome. Let's come here to the beginning of our timeline and let's open up ellipse 1. Let's go to the transform ellipse 1. Let's add a keyframe for scale, move it forward in time, maybe to a second, and we'll set the scale down to 0%. And of course, let's make these keyframes easy keyframes by hitting F9 on our keyboard. Then let's go ahead and close this up. Grab the ellipse 1, go up to edit, duplicate, and we'll go ahead and bring the ellipse 2 underneath the ellipse 1 to keep that nice in order. Click on the word contents, and then we'll come here to add, and we're going to add a merge paths. Open up merge paths, set the mode to subtract, and then just hit U on your keyboard to bring up the keyframes. Grab the last keyframes here on the bottom and just move it over by a few frames. So now you'll get this slow animation here with our circle imploding on itself, coming in and imploding. So really cool. So what we'll do with this is we'll come here, we'll just trim the layer into the end of that keyframe there. And if we want to make it a little bit bigger, we can just scale it because, no big deal. Depends on what you want to do. So what we can do here is duplicate our shape layer, just move it around, duplicate it, move it, and we're going to do this a lot of times. And we're just going to kind of scatter this just around the composition in random positions, right? So when you have a handful of these in here, what we're going to do is grab all of our dots here, hit P on keyboard for position, and we'll come here to the end of our layer. We'll add a keyframe for position. This will add a keyframe for all the layers. Then come here to the beginning. Then we'll come here to the line tab and center this up, and this will be directly in the center of our composition like this. So then you'll get this coming out like that. Awesome. So then our goal here is to kind of just put these in the spot where we want them to be. So I'll have them kind of like after the logo animation's up, and I'll come on like that. And we can kind of just shift this over by a few frames. And then I'll go ahead and just pre-compose them. And I'll put the layer like underneath everything. And make sure you turn on motion blur for all this as well. So here's with our dots, and it adds just like a nice touch of extra graphics to our composition. So if you want to save time and have access to an amazing pack of accent motion graphics like this, like you see here in the end of our composition, along with 80 other titles and background animations, we have our own pack called the Motion Graphics Starter Pack with 305 compositions that you bring into any After Effects project file. So for example, I can come into our motion graphics folder that we have from our project file, go to clusters, and I can bring in one of our pre-made accent motion graphic files. And as you can see, within a drag and a drop, we've been able to import our own accent motion graphics very easily and save a lot of time and bring a tremendous amount of value to our composition. And our pack comes with over 60 regular titles along with our own accent titles. And along with our title animations, we put together accent motion graphics with our titles, so you're able to kind of have these compositions ready to go for you. And then we have 148 accent motion graphics in here along with currently 66 backgrounds. So if you want to check out our motion graphics starter pack, that link will be in the description, and you can take a look at most of the elements that we have in this pack on our website. And of course, this background is from our motion graphics starter pack, but I'm going to show you how to create this from scratch. So if we want to create our own background like this, we can grab the rectangle tool, and I'll just draw out a rectangle like this, and I'll solo this layer for now. And there you go. Then we'll go to add, and we'll add a repeater. We'll open up repeater 1, and we'll increase the number of copies to go across, and it could be a really high number. We'll open up transform repeater 1, and we'll increase the X position. So then you get something like this, enough of gaps, that's good. Then we can hit R on our keyboard for rotation, and we'll increase the rotation to 45 degrees. And if you need to make this a little bit longer, we can just stretch this out and boom, no problem, right? And we'll start this over here. Perfect. Then we'll hit P on our keyboard for position. We'll add a keyframe for it. And we'll just move forward in time until the end of our composition. And we can just slightly move this over. So now you get this animation here. It looks great. Then we'll go ahead and just unsolo this layer and put it underneath everything. And obviously we got to add the color. So what we can do is go to Layer, New, Solid. And I'll call it Gradient. And we'll go to Effect, Generate Gradient Ramp. Okay. And we'll come here to Start a Color, and we can select one, any color, doesn't really matter. Click OK. And go to End Color, and we go to that same sort of color group and make it just a little bit darker. Okay, awesome. And then we'll go ahead and make sure our gradient is underneath our, shape layer that we just created. Toggle switch to modes until you see the blend mode, and set the blend mode for your shape layer to soft light. And then we can come here, grab both our layers, pre-compose it, and call it background. And we can hit T on keyboard for opacity, and we can lower the opacity so we can control how bright this is. So if you're okay with that, it's up to you. But that's how we can easily create an animated background for our logo animation, and you can do whatever you want with the colors. And if you want to learn more about creating animated backgrounds, I'll drop that link to that tutorial. That link will be in the description. So to finish everything off in our last technique, I just want to put some finishing touches on things. So what we can do first of all is go up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And we go to Effect, Noise and Grain, and we're going to add noise. And I'm going to set the noise amount to 8%, uncheck Use Color Noise. This way it has just a little bit of texture and makes it a little bit more, I guess, filmic. It's my touch of doing things. It's really cool. Then let's go to Layer, New, Null Object. And let's go ahead and grab all of our layers except for the background in that previous adjustment layer and parent it to the null object by dragging the pick whip, put it into the null object. Awesome. So we'll time this out. So right when the logo comes on, let's say right here, we'll hit S on our keyboard for scale. We'll add a keyframe for it and we'll move forward by 2 frames. And we'll scale it down to like maybe 90%. So it kind of be like a nice jump. And then we'll move forward until the title is on. Maybe like the last graphic here is on. That's fine. We'll add a keyframe for it and we'll bring it back up to 100%. So now, boom, pops on. Great. Pops back at us when it's done animating. Just adds a little bit of symmetry and more movement and detail to our logo animation. So when it's all said and done, you should have something like this. Make sure you turn motion blur on for your graphics, and you should be good to go. Remember, you can check out our motion graphics starter pack off our website with 300 plus elements. So if you're looking to save time and improve the quality of your work, be sure to check that link out in the video description. So I hope you found this After Effects tutorial helpful. And remember, if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button because we post multiple post-production tutorials every single week right here on the channel. You can also hit me up on my social media networks. Those links are in the video description, and always be creating.